Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first and last word poetry series. And Harris and I are very happy to have you guys here tonight. And we have three wonderful readers. And our first one is Deborah Leipziger. She's an author, poet, and advisor on sustainability. Born in Brazil, Deborah's poems have been published in 10 countries. Her poetry collection, Story and Bone, was published by Lily Poetry Review Books in 2023. She is the author of several books on human rights and sustainability. And I give you Deborah.
Thank you so much. It's really a joy to be here. Oops. Can you hear me? Good. Okay. I'm going to be reading from Story and Bone, my new collection of poems that came out from Lily Poetry Review. And I'm also going to read some new work. And I'm excited to be at an open mic. So I'm going to start with the first poem from Story and Bone. And this poem is called Sugaring, and it's after the Sudanese American poet Safiya Ehiyo. Sugaring. I was made of almonds and sugar, of giving and receiving, coastlines dug deep with departure, of boats and boundaries seeking refuge. For my nonna, all desserts began with recreating home in a latticework of marzipan. I was born under dictatorship, under the light of the Southern Cross, dissolving into coconut and clove, tangled in the umbilical cord. My mother told me no one would ever love me like she did. Now I know she was right and wrong. My daughters, born of gingerbread, under a coup divorce, hold the light, the dark of my countries. And this next poem was written for a poet that you might remember, Janice Silverman Rabibo. She was a bagel bard and a wonderful friend and mentor. And I have enormous gratitude for the bagel bards and those of you in this Zoom who are part of that. And this poem is called Radiation on Valentine's Day. I want to radiate your cells with poetry, to sink stanzas into your marrow and sonnets into your lesions. I want to place tercets inside your wounds, dress the cavities and densities. Let the words coil into your clavicle until the sestina's nest, tibia and tendon, until bone by bone you are returned. Let the verse in, vertebrae by vertebrae, rose by rose, vein by vein. And this collection has a lot of love poems for my daughters, for nature, for the beloved. And this one is called 2S. Draw me a map of your body, your tender places of longing. Guide me through your Atacama desert. Take me through the disbelief, the fingerprints that caused you pain. Guide me through the caves, into the canyons. Let us enter the caldera and traverse this newly created earth. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been working my way through the Seeley Challenge. Is anyone else doing that? Reading a book of poems each day in August. So it's at that point where like it's the finish line. So it's been a very exciting year to do that. So I hope to hear more from you about what you're reading as well. So I'm going to read a couple of new poems. This next poem was written at a workshop that MoMA does, the Museum of Modern Art, and I really recommend their writing club. They do I don't know if it's once a month or every other month, but they have wonderful events and they're free. And I've written a number of poems based on the prompts. And so this was a really interesting art exhibit and about refugees. Love poem for my body. Listen and you will hear my rainforests rustle, shaking canopy of nesting hummingbirds. The waves of my body release shells, oval and spiral. If the body is mostly water, then here are my archipelagos, bays and canals. Meu corpo with its apertures, tasting the world. Follow my river veins to their tributaries and deltas. Trace the map of my body, hemispheres and countries echoing of shell. People say that refugee is a first language, and then a spoken language comes second. But I say my body is my first language, my consonants and vowels, speaking myself into being. This next poem, very happy to report, thank you. This next poem, I had three poems published last week in the Bombay Literary Magazine, and I'll put a link into that. It's a really cool magazine, and they published a couple of poems, and this is one of the poems they published. It's called God of Beginnings, God of Endlings. And an endling is the word for something that's the last of its kind or species. And one of the things I'm working on is a dictionary of terms like that around biodiversity and climate change. God of beginnings, God of endlings. Somewhere in the forest by the Ayampe River, perhaps today, the last two Esmeralda's wood stars court and create offspring. God of nests, protect them. Purple body, ruby throat, emerald feathers. I hear your wing beats. In Brazil, you are beija-flor, kissing flowers to suck nectar for hovering. A glittering, a bouquet, a shimmer, a tune, a charm of hummingbirds. God of hummingbirds, watch over them. When the last hummingbird is gone, what will become of the God of hummingbirds? And this next poem is a cento. And a cento, some of you may know, is a poem based on lines from another piece of work. And this cento is based on lines from the novel Liberty by Caitlin Greenidge. And it was published in Pensive, which is another wonderful magazine that's open for submissions. I can post that link too if people want. Cento for my daughters. And I think this poem, it is really, I chose it because I think it echoes what some of the sentiments from the Democratic National Convention that we saw, just the focus on mothers and daughters. Cento for my daughters. I hope that I have made you brave, you in the world responding to me, the song I made. A daughter is a poem. You in the world responding to me, a daughter is a psalm. Kind, but not too kind. The song I made. A daughter is a psalm. What freeborn thing can bear to be loved as much as that? Write something for me. What freeborn thing, you in the world, a daughter is a poem. There is bravery in being a mother. You in the world responding to me. Being a mother means being someone's God, if only briefly. Kind, but not too kind. A daughter is a poem. Being a mother means being someone's God, if only briefly. And you cannot understand what I have given you, all I have given you, to prepare you to fight. And you cannot understand what I gave you, you in the world, responding to me. I hope that I have made you brave. Thank you. This next poem is about the eclipse, which I saw, not the total eclipse, but I saw a beautiful afternoon in Worcester. Come into totality. At the edge of the woods, we take in the eclipse, waiting for the moon to seduce the crescent sun, now moonlike. The liquid sun pours itself around the edges of the moon. The sun flares, embraces the rim, the parting and slow release. I am fluent in eclipses. And I have one last poem. Tell me, what are you most afraid of? Tell me, and I will give you shade. Yes, I know of the many ways to die. Heat, thirst, flood, lightning. Why fear growing old? I have witnessed your life. There are so many ways to live. Remember, you grow rich in many currencies: light, generosity, energy, kindness. Protect me, and I will provide cover, connected as we are by need and nearness. I will cover the frozen ground with my leaves and weave my branches of color over your darkness. Come, rest with me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deborah. That was a wonderful selection tonight, and it's a great way to start a wonderful evening of poetry. Our next reader is going to be an unusual reader for our venue. He's reading prose. He's raised in Los Angeles, lives in Boston. He's the author, most recently, of Word in Edgewise from Cervena Barva Press. His previous collections of poetry and flash fiction are Lucky Animals, No Wait, I Can Explain, Pink, X-Ray, and Detonations. His website is www.bradrosepoetry.com. So anyway, I give you Brad Rose.
Thanks very much, Harris. I really appreciate it. So yeah, these are prose poems, and they're just block paragraphs, not delineated. So the first piece I'm going to read is it's called "It All Depends," and it's from excuse me, the forthcoming book from Cervena Barva Press called Word in Edgewise. Admiring the corporality of animals, we're parked in the ghost car. I have an indoor question. How many misspelled thoughts must I have anyway? There's nothing more beautiful than wanting the impossible to be true, especially when it is. Time passes faster in the mountains than by the sea. Like a drowned body, the sky's blue prairie floats overhead. Wind, light as confetti. Maybe we should take a drive to the beach, go for a swim. I don't want to give away the ending, but I can tell you it's a beauty. No one attends their own funeral. Know what I'm saying? By the way, that outfit looks good on you, although it all depends on how you look at it. Hat store window. Thanks to my invisibility cloak, I'm enjoying the darkness. You know me. If I could, I'd dance the night away. In fact, because I'm no longer afraid of the devil's cartoons, I'm planning a trip to the real Disneyland. In merely 3 short weeks, anyone on the internet can learn to speak a new language. It's a small world after all. Just imagine your internal organs course not your appendix, that useless little finger buried deep in your slippery belly. That's much too ugly. Although, like extraterrestrial intelligence, there's got to be a logical explanation. You probably think you know exactly where this is going. Appearances can be deceiving. In my opinion, your dainty head belongs in a hat store window. So come on in, have a seat, any seat. No, not that seat. Another pirate story. At the Pentagon, the holiday spirit is in full swing. Cannibalism tends to bring people together. Fortunately, I'm in touch with myself, although like opposable thumbs, I don't take it personally. This year, Satan is doing my income taxes. He's a likable enough guy, although he says he finds it's too dark in the shadows and too bright in the light. Of course, that's not necessarily going to put food on the table. While some say there is safety in numbers, there is no safety, only numbers. In fact, in spite of my wanton attitude toward pleasure, carnality, and decadence, I don't care for your reckless, cheating ways. You are, however, my treasure island, my little mermaid. That's why I wear an eye patch, shoulder a chatty parrot, and sport a mahogany leg. That's why whenever I sail toward your lush and verdant isle, the bumper sticker on the stern of my galleon reads, "How's my driving?" Next piece is called Echo Park, and this is in another book from Cervena Barva Press called Momentary Turbulence. Of course, setting fire to birds is wrong, even if everybody else is doing it. Anyway, you have to catch them first. A couple of times I nearly died in my sleep, but like that lady doctor said, each day my cells make me a new body. Everything will be okay as long as it happens before midnight. Since my brother's murder, I don't worry if my skin's on inside out. We're all just people. Last week, I counted 7 Thursdays. Sunday happened all day. It makes you wonder what sports would be like on other planets. Would they have home games and away games? Probably both. Soon, I'm going to get a place of my own. My mom's basement is small, but at least it prevents echoes. My bedroom has a door to the outside. You can go for a walk by the lake anytime you want, day or night. The palms lean toward the lake, like they're listening to the water crying. Sometimes a person can get lost at night, even if they're dead. I don't pay any attention to the black helicopters. What do they want, anyway? This is called Relax. It's also in Momentary Turbulence. The sign in the window says ladies' dresses 70% off. Can't be sure whether that's an invitation or a warning. Like God, the cause of the accident is still under investigation. Stop me if you heard this story so many times you can't remember what it's about. Administratively speaking, you'd do the same if I were in your shoes. With a deluxe nightmare, it comes at no extra cost, excluding normal wear and tear. I may look like I'm hiding in a drowning, but I've learned you can have an excellent memory if you don't spend all your time trying to forget. It's as easy as an electrocution in standing water. It's such a beautiful evening tonight, don't you think? The breeze cool and slow, your eyes dark as dead stars. With my hand in yours, I feel relaxed as an axe lounging in blue sequined moonlight. The throat of the moon, pulled out like a drawer. I'm going to just read three more very short poems. These are about 80, 90 words each. First one's called Dolls, and it's from Lucky Animals. Over the years, my house grew to be as big as a house. It's not an either-or question. Needless to say, there's safety in numbers and letters. Yesterday, Margene asked me, "Are you as disappointed in baggy, slouchy trousers as I am?" Then it rained. I drove out to the doll cemetery, you know, the one by the toy lake. Fortunately, there were no survivors. An underappreciated fact about cannibals. You can tell a lot about a place by the conviviality of its organ donors. For example, my bank has a relationship manager, and not just for marital emergencies. I guess everybody wants special treatment, although I'm not sure whether the sign in the window says don't panic or don't picnic. Naturally, you can expect a few trade-offs here and there, but they're bound to happen whenever you count your blessings. Just because people eat people doesn't mean they're merely cannibals. They have other talents. Some are in sales. The last piece is very short. It's called Shark. Yesterday at the beach, it was so peaceful and soothing, like a dream, that I nearly forgot where I was, at least until all the splashing and flailing began. When the lifeguard jumped up, pointed seaward, and started to yell hysterically, it was hard to tell if he was shrieking, "Man eating shark," or "Man eating a shark." Fortunately, after I got out of the icy water and dried off, my jaws only hurt for a little while. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Again, another nice, eclectic, interesting selection, and very entertaining. And you have a certain degree of wit in your writing. And anyway, I like some of your surprise endings. They kind of curve and draw you in.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Harris. It's very kind.
Our next reader tonight is Michael Steffen. His poems have appeared in the Boston Globe, E-Verse Radio, The Dark Horse in the Lyric, and others. Of his second book, On Earth as It Is, published by Cervena Barva Press, Joan Houlihan has noted the poet's intimate portraits, sense of history, surprising wit, and the play of dark and light, the striking combination of the everyday and the transcendent. Please welcome Michael Todd Steffen.
Thanks, Harris. It's great to be here tonight and to listen to Deborah and to Brad and to see the friends of mine who tuned in, Rob and Stuart and my parents. So I'll just start with a summertime poem from my book, On Earth as It Is, that Cervena Barva Press, Gloria edited so well. The poem is called For a Cranberry. Summertime for us, holding out beneath the stars, your tender voice and storm inside your breath. Perched on a compact disc, flying off of it, enchantress of range, alto to brusque, coquettish, dear, defiant. Angels see everything, the love, the grief, the gall, that transform life to song. Cross woman and tom girl of bogs and their bright fruit, waded in to gather. On the tongue, bitter and sweet, Dolores O'Riordan sang here. Dolores O'Riordan was the singer for the Cranberries. And she passed in 2016. That was some time ago. This poem is called Left Writing. Self-reflexive poems springboarding off their titles often belie their pop and belly flop, especially one with a negative connotation like left in it, as though I were abandoned here in the cliche of the sullen sedentary school kid, head tilted on knuckles at a thick tome by a window through which fellows can be seen playing soccer in a field. It makes the phrase left writing picture perfect enough you almost miss the facile pun, left writing, the homophonic polarization with its friction to titillate humdrum erudition as we think of it, as though integrating left and right were that unthinkable, as if one simply walking could proceed otherwise. Left, right, a mother says to her child, setting him on his feet from a fall. Persist, keep going is what she means. Thus the title, Left Writing, infers an affirmation. The reader of the mid-2020s with our sharpened tooth for politics might resign to erasure. were we not to comment insightfully on poems any longer, contenting ourselves with glib praises, surpassing, wonderful, as wondrous as one setting off walking left, right, while heading away from her or himself, as in a humor illustration, footprints widening in an arc, the person having half that way, half the other way at the same time. As if one's feet could venture the continuous body, that forking the tongue bewilders us with daily. Shout out to Joyce Wilson, the editor of the Poetry Porch. Joyce isn't with us so far that I've seen. She put this poem, That House, in the Poetry Porch this year. So I wanted to say thank you to Joyce. Everybody knows, I think, That House, or everyone has been to That House. I'd come to feel defects were unavoidable, maybe even necessary, as much a part of myself as the side door of that house that sometimes wouldn't shut tight, then would get stuck shut and wouldn't open, even though the key turned and turned in its knob, not to mention the siding or the kitchen that needed a complete overhaul, but for some reason seemed just fine for sandwiches and instant coffee. I could hear the neighbors on the other side of the wall of that duplex when their plates and silverware clinked in the sink with as much oblivion as the ladder in our shared garage, or the leaves weighing down the gutter in the eaves. And also wanted to thank editor around town who's not here tonight, Doug Holder, for publishing this poem last week in the Lyrical Somerville. It's called Doctor's Hand. Today, I guess we're used to maybe having doctors call in prescriptions. They used to write on squares of paper in notoriously bad, illegible handwriting. And I thought it great for the subject of a poem. It's called Doctor's Hand. Wary of anything prescribed, not every line of writing is legible. You don't have the beam to scan its code, fragment of choppy C, scrawl of a graph that would appall the English teacher, admonishing us to keep the toes of our letters on the blue line, dot our I's and mind our P's. The script, for all I can make out, is for rat poison, confirmed by the pharmacist's shrug and easy grasp of the formula's terms. Powdered into the capsule I'm to orbit in, it is to write the chemical imbalance in my brain, whose acronymic syndrome I keep muddling, puzzling, forgetting, aptly symptomatic after all. You're only human. We're here to make you better. So down the hatch, patient awaiting grace of shadow falling between signifier and signified. This poem is called Big Diff. Wear braids or a Yankees cap, be black or white or tan. Exclusion based on those is just a load of crap. Vision can't be so plain. We'll feel love to our toes. And yet to draw a line between pocketbook and conscience, cheap glue and driven screw, we might let disgust define means from apparent ends, the flimsy from the true. Banquets dissolve in the cheek, laurel tangles one's hair for a day, then withers and falls. Pindar to us is Greek. A crow hops into the air and caws and caws and caws. At a lost time of my life, I call this poem Midway. I found myself there too, though there were too few trees to make the place a dark wood now. As hard to say, being that lost in the open. I want to nod, yes, finding the atoll west of west in the Pacific's vast blue, a dot there on the map, an ant between grains of sugar on a midnight table. No wild bee shook the air, no squadrons flew diving for the hissing fleet. There was more unlikeness than likeness midway upon the journey of my life. Call it midnight. I often stepped out into the dark from a stale apartment to breathe and smoke despite all oaths to quit. To them across the dark, the hovering fireflies, I must have appeared to signal, glowing, going dark again, glowing again, midway, between late night shows in the Midwest, between New York and LA, where a time before Samsung, if you can believe that, I had a nightstand clock. I saw its hands clutch at the cliff of 4 a.m. When I woke, the windows were too full of light. This may have been the meaning of midway. Time impossible to stop, stuck, pendant. Too much had lived there beyond its date. I needed to clear out the leftovers in the fridge. In the long midsummer's end of day, I walked along the runnels in the riverbed, anticipating sundown. I couldn't tell you what I looked forward to, but they appeared, hovering, tiny little fires dotting the dark. They go out, out, then glow again. And so I'm just going to finish. I started the poem first. I've been reading summer poems, and this poem is about well, it mentions the Perseids, the astral showers. You're seeing a lot of stars that are going out now. And so when I refer to the Perseids, it's about the astral showers. The poem is called With Age to Suss. The young couple had been out in the dark as though they had to announce that, miles and miles away from the city's lights to watch the stars fall from the sky. I meet them waiting for their breakfast delivery on the porch, Saturday's globe with its noses tucked into my arm. A streak of light arcs across the dark felt in my brain. It's mid-August. The Perseids, I say to them. Her look sours. I don't carry a purse, Mike. Why? Where'd you find it? I wave and shake my head and tell them to have a good morning. They let me go as though out of some debt owed by their exclamatory lovemaking, often through their ceiling, my floor. Upstairs, I close my door, a softest touch on what I live with now, with cups of coffee and the news raining fire down as it does from a dark, distant world that keeps burning out. I smell bacon, and I'm keen enough to chew that up, yet enough beyond keen to feel it is burning out. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining in and listening. Thanks, Gloria and Harris.